I got excited.
Yes. Alrighty, let's go.
Are we ready?
We're excited. Yes.
We're live.
We're live.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming to the 33rd session of the International Youth Conference. Today we will be focusing on the intersection between youth activism and green empowerment and the Sustainable Development Goals. So, Jessica, I'm going to give the floor to you.
Thank you so much all for coming. Thank you to the in-person participants for staying with us. Thank you to the online participants for joining us at this time, at this hour. My name is Jessica Lee, and I am the moderator for this session. I am the director in the International Youth Conference.
Yes, so I'm just going to turn the floor to each of you guys to introduce yourself, to give a brief statement on this topic. So I guess Julie first, as the leader of outreach and partnership at the Commission for Environmental Cooperation, just please introduce yourself, tell a little bit about what you do, all that.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, all attendees, and also for the speakers. I've been here for a few days now, and I was amazed by all the speakers and the wonderful session we had before, and really humbled by all the inspiring stories. So I'm Julie. I'm the lead outreach and partnership at the Commission for Environmental Cooperation. It's a trilateral institution established 30 years ago by Canada, Mexico, and the USA. It's aimed to implement the North American Agreement on Environmental Cooperation, and we're based in Montreal, Canada. The idea of this commission is to bring together community leaders, experts, and government representatives to foster cooperation, public participation, and to conserve and protect and enhance the North American environment in support of sustainable development in the three countries.
Yes, thank you so much. Your work is so impactful. Henry, as an entrepreneur at Fin Africa, can you talk a little bit about what you do and your connection to this session's topic?
Thank you so much. Thank you, my fellow speaker and moderator as well. And thank you to my wonderful audience. You guys have been so wonderful. So you can give yourself a round of applause for that. And yeah, so once again, good evening, everyone. I'm just going to go briefly because I know we're a little bit out of time. So Flint Africa is a initiative that our goal is to make international money transaction very seamless and very easy for everyone, right? And we're here today. I'm here today, not just as a technologist, but as a fervent advocate for sustainable futures. As we dive into the poignant topic of empowering youth for a greener world, our youth population stands at a beacon of hope, a reservoir of untapped potential. To equip them with the tools and knowledge and platform to be stewards of the environment, channeling their intent, creativity, and boundless potential. As we unravel this discussion today, let's foster a narrative that is grounded in empowerment, education, and collaborative effort. A narrative that sows seeds of hope, engagement, and actionable sustainable in our young minds. I'm eager to embark on this enriched journey and dialogue discovery with each one of you here, and as we blueprint a greener world for this coming generation. So thank you guys so much, and I look forward to digging down, go down more, deep dive into what today's topic is about.
Yes, I mean, your work is so impactful, and it'll be really, I'm interested to hear your take on these issues from a more financial lens, because that's a really important lens to think of youth and sustainability, as well as the other diverse perspectives we have on this panel. Joseph, as an activist at the Adjustment City, can you talk a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure.
Your statement.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Jessica. Thanks to our viewers, those who are watching online and here. So I'm going to be concise. My name is Joseph, and I'm a youth activist, and also I was a television presenter back in my country at the Australian Broadcasting Corporation Television, where I advocated for some of the SDGs, and also I'm the founder of the Adjustment City. It's a community-based organization that is set to readdress issues in Sierra Leone, and we also promote the interest of youth and give them the visibility they need. So, we can boost their self-esteem and self-efficacy. So pretty much that's me. Thank you.
Um, excuse me. So our first question for the panel will be, what are the origins of your passion for this session's topic? How did you first hear about or become interested in the intersection between youth and sustainable development? I guess, Julie, we'll start with you.
Sure. So it's a great question. How does this passion comes from? I always love to learn about people's stories, to share knowledge with people too. And so I worked in different NGOs throughout my life, and on climate justice, working with youth activists, and now working with the CEC. It's always about sharing knowledge and stories. And so I wanted to do that since ever, I think, since ever. And so what brought me to the CEC, I think the Commission aim to work and to connect with the young people from the 3 countries. So I found that super interesting because there's the building a network, building cooperation. And so the CEC, I think, found me as a youth leader who wanted to make something in the world. And also I found them because what I believe in is building partnerships, building dialogues, and at the Commission we have the chance to have a joint public advisory committee to do public consultations. We have a traditional ecological knowledge expert group. They represent indigenous communities, so that is super also important for me and for the Commission. We also, of course, work with high-level governmental officials and representatives. They guide our action to have a common view and common knowledge on the environmental issues. And we work with community leaders and youth leaders. So all that really linked my passion on working with youth activists, but also making them heard and sharing their stories. And another thing also that I found interesting, and that's also why I wanted to work at the Commission, and the Commission does a great work for youth working in sustainable development, is that it's about knowledge sharing, like all type of knowledge, accessible data. So they do campaigns on food loss and waste, on pollinators, on pollution, circular economy, environmental education. There's many topics and many experts that we have the chance to work with. Also the support networks. There's a youth eco-innovation network that supports youth eco-entrepreneur with grants, with mentorships programs. So that also was super important for me, like for the place where I would work at would bring people forward and give them the tools and the space to present their initiatives. And also there's a lot of accessible tools. We have the chance of working with a lot of partners, different partners. And for example, we are sharing and we are building this tool with a lot of partners. It's the Atlas. It promotes, it's sharing harmonized data from the 3 countries. And then you can do cross-boundary analysis on environmental issues. So this making accessible all this knowledge, creating these networks, empowering people like this, I found was completely in line with what I wanted to do, like when I was a youth or even a child working in studying.
That makes a lot of sense, especially in today's very disconnected world. The power of sharing stories is so important, especially in the climate space. So I really agree with everything you said. Henry, how about you? How did you become passionate about youth and sustainability?
So for me, I'll break it down in 4 stages, which is my early experience, growing up in Nigeria and moving to the United States, and discovering different things because there's different country, different culture, different access to different type of I'd say different types of amenities to help you grow, to help you innovate, to help you build things, right? That's one. Secondly, is my academic background. Being a someone that has technology background, study IT in school, that also drive me to know that yes, I can actually build applications that can make people's life easy. I can, do different things that have access to different type of resources to be able to build something, that it's unique that would make people's life easy. For instance, the building a clean water energy, how people can, for people that don't have access to healthcare, build an application that can actually help them have access to healthcare and everything. And the entrepreneurial drive is another one. Being an IT person, I leverage, and this evening it was actually very funny. We are all talking about how everywhere you go, they talk about generative AI, AI there, AI here, and AI there. And even from the last session too, I know that's what we're all talking about. And that's something that when people talk about it, everybody's, very happy and people want to talk about it. And the reason everyone wants to talk about it because that's the next innovative thing, right? So me having that background pushed me to have that entrepreneurial drive. And founding Fint Africa was a pivotal moment in my journey. It allowed me to merge my passion for technology and financial inclusion and sustainability, right? Like I said earlier, at Fint Africa, our mission is to provide affordable and environmental conscious financial services across Africa, right? With our particular focus on empowering every African citizen to send money internationally and not at the high rate, but at an affordable rate, right? And also, one other thing that my team does, and my team and I, what we do is to make sure that on our pages we actually like educate everyone that follows us. You can follow us right now, and basically to educate them on how to save money, how to what to use money for. Most of them with like educating people basically how to make good financial decisions, because most of our institutions right now they leave that part out of the topic, and that's why when people, young adult, get out of school, then they just discover they're in debt, right? But if there's a intentional planning, right? That could have not allowed them to get themselves in that situation. So those are the three things that actually pushed me into like believing in all the SDG goals.
Yes, I mean, that was a fantastic answer. To me, at least, there's a clear connection between finances, sustainability, and youth, is that they're all fields, they're all, entities of the future. Um, and so how future driven you are is really admirable, especially with fintech. What about you, Jason?
So, for me, I came from a country where, as a result of all that has been lost, most people feel like they're trapped and there is no hope. So that gave me the conviction. That was the catalyst that led me to volunteer at a school. That was where I started. So I volunteered at a school back in my country, and I taught in English classes, home economic classes. I loved working with kids. My passion kept on growing and growing. I was also part of the first STEM that was held in the school first symposium, sorry, that was held in the school that initiated the starting of a STEM club. And then from there, I decided to work at a TV station, which is the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation Television. There I worked with youth, and I made appearances on television with some of my colleagues, that were working together. We advocated on TV for some of the SDGs, such as climate action, alleviating poverty, and a lot more. Yeah, and we were on TV like every Saturday, like I said, and also moving on. I started up my organization, which is the Adjustment City, and yeah, so far so good. We're advocating, and we're still visiting schools, and helping schools, like helping kids with school materials that will foster quality learning, because that's my main focus. And yeah, so far so good. Yeah, that's fine.
Kind of beyond your origins, which are all, full of passion, everyone on this panel, and I'm sure everyone in the audience, has experienced a professional setback at some time. There's been a time when you didn't get that, lab opportunity, you didn't get that job opportunity, that promotion. So can each of you talk about some sort of professional setback you experienced, and then how you kind of recovered from that and what you learned from that? Because I'm sure with all of your experience, you have a lot to share about overcoming adversity. Joseph, I guess we could start with you.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. So one of the setback I faced was moving to the US. Well, I moved to the US to study, and it was really hard for me. Like, I believe most people agree with me. If you're working from home, if you're working like with youth that are far away from you, I don't know how to put that, but yeah. So I was working in the US here, like with youth back in my country, and most youth in my country, I would say, are complacent, and also they can also be apathetic. So for me, it was a little bit hard. That was a setback for me, and also moving to the US. I mean, it's a different world. I had to like make a lot of adjustments. You know, like all of this distraction keep coming, and they also swayed me from like the main goal, from what I had passion for. But then I came to the realization that, yeah, like this is what I was called for. So yeah, and also I came also realize that I have to be a work in progress. Like whether this youth decide to work with me or not, I have to like keep going, keep advocating and doing my own thing. And I know for sure that they'll definitely come around, because also there will come a time when that there will be this visibility, and I would want to represent my best self. So yeah, it's like be a work in progress. That's how I was able to like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really strong message about being a work in progress, because, it's so easy when you face the first setback
Yeah.
to kind of take it personally.
Right.
And the way that you found like balancing, dealing with this like youth apathy, and dealing with adjusting to the United States
Right.
with that sense that things are going to get better is really cool, and really difficult. So, Henry, what about you? What's a sort of professional setback you faced, and how did you overcome that? What did you learn from that?
So I'm going to start from the work in progress that Joseph had mentioned, which I believe everyone would actually agree with me that we're all work in progress. For me, I'd say, I'll give an example. What actually birthed the idea behind my startup was I came in as an international student, as you too, and because of the irregularities between the market rates, that kind of like fostered what we all know as Fint Africa today, because the exchange rate it's start like getting high, and for a international student that you're solely dependent on your parents, it became a discussion like, listen, dude, the exchange rate to dollar to naira, it's not the same thing again. So at this point, we will need to slow down on the way you swipe for your school items. Like maybe just swipe at the dining once a week, because my dad was like, yeah, because I'm feeling it back home in my pocket. So because of the exchange rate. So that was what brought the idea behind Fint Africa, because there are a lot of people, a lot of young youth out there that they can afford these things because of high fees, and this has actually put them in a box, right? And even at the time I decided, okay, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. Then it became a question of, okay, you want to do it, but you need licenses to do that. Now, when you start reaching out to the government, I need to get this license, I need to get this license, then they hit you with a ridiculous amount of fees too, that this is the amount you have to pay to be able to do this. Then you think about it and look at your pocket. Do I really have this amount to really get these licenses? Right? And at some point you are going to be like, if you are not strong enough, you can just say, okay, well, I guess it's not my calling. I'm just going to leave it and just focus on something else, right? This is where the drive comes in. This is when you believe in yourself that this is a problem and you already identify that problem, regardless of what solution you are working on, regardless of how many years it's going to take you to achieve that solution. You know it's a problem that needs to be solved. You're going to always hit rock bottom all the time, but what makes it different is when you get to that place, what else do you do? Like, do you just give up or you just look for another way to just keep getting better at what you do?
Yeah, I mean, the way you turn that kind of financial hardship you experience into a business that can help other people is really admirable. And I think is kind of, what we were looking for, like in this question. That is the purest version of like, I faced, an issue, a setback, and I turned it into my passion, which is so difficult and so admirable. Julie, how about you? What is like a professional setback you experienced, and how did you learn from that setback?
It's a really good question, and I got really good advice from the speaker here. For me, I would say it was finding my path. Now, I knew I wanted to connect people, share voices, amplify voices, use voices even as a youth. But so I went to study law, international law for a bit, and then I studied human rights, and I did a little bit of scientific studies, but it seemed for many people all over the place. But I really knew I wanted to just to get to know people, to get to know the various sectors, various stories. And so it was, at some point I kind of had imposter syndrome, what am I specialized in? What am I an expert on? And I think it's just through mentorships to connecting to people who would understand this path, like my colleagues who are maybe watching at the CEC tonight, and so getting this support, telling you that you're on the right path, finding your people that would support you in a professional environment or personal environment, both are super important. Also take time to reflect. I took some time to reflect about, okay, I don't know, it seems like I'm doing multiple paths, but okay, reflect, why first did you want to do that? So then you can find your truth back and then persevere. So I think, I would say, maybe if your path is a bit hectic and maybe sometimes if you doubt where you're going, just persevere because the truth will come back and then you would, and for example, being here tonight, like just hearing all these wonderful testimonies about youth engagement and climate action. I'm like, okay, now I remember, that's why I was fighting for that this past few years. So I would say perseverance.
Yeah.
Persevere.
Like staying connected to that passion, even through personal hardship, is something that is also, really difficult to do and is really strong advice for our audience. That kind of imposter syndrome is not, connected to, or should not be connected to your passion and following your passion. And it's really hard, but the way that you didn't let that get in the way of your professional goals is really admirable. So shifting to a sort of broader scope, we spoke about everyone's individual experience, but in the sort of global intersection between sustainability and youth, why is an emphasis on this, in governance, in scientific areas important? Why do you care, and why should we care about empowering youth for a greener world? We should start. Julie, I guess you
So why we should care? We should care because, there's this sentence that youth are the leader of tomorrow. I've been saying, and I've been told many ways, that the youth are the leaders of today. We need to give them space. We need to give them support. We need to amplify their voices. For example, in North America, there is more than 76 million of youth. And so it's important for me and for the Commission, which I work for, to amplify their voice, to support them, to build sustainable solutions, to fight this environmental crisis and all the environmental issues. So I would say that's why we should listen to them. And there is, I don't know if I should talk about solution now, or maybe you want to ask us. questions later. I can.
I think that might fall under one of the later questions,
Okay,
but hold it
perfect.
because I'm sure you have a really good point. Yeah, Henry, how do you relate to this issue? Why is the focus on, youth and sustainability important, especially through your financial lens?
So, for me, I would say the diverse perspective, right? Youth represent diverse background, right? If you look at everyone around there, if you look at everyone in the room, you could actually tell by that, youth represent diverse background, cultures, and experience, right? Their involvement ensures that the sustainability solutions are inclusive and considerate of various perspective, right? And as for why I care, uh, empowering individual, right, which is very, very important, right? Empowering youth aligns with one of our missions at Think Africa. That's one of our missions there. At Think Africa, we empower individual to economically and socially to account for what they do, and which preach a greener world and is tied to economic stability and social well-being of an individual. Right. Another one is I have a list here, and I just want to quickly run through it so I don't
Yes,
take
Of
everyone's time.
course, yeah.
Yeah, another one is technological potential, right? The technological potential. Being someone as the background in tech, I've seen different youth use their innovative skills to build things, right? To create things, to build apps that it's just out of this world. And especially with the way things are going right now, like, you know, it's something that the government needs to really invest in, right? That everyone needs to get on it. And the last one is the sustainable legacy, right? By empowering the youth, right, we can leave behind a sustainable legacy, right? It's not just about short-term fixes, but it's about the long-term fixes which build the future, right?
Yeah, I mean, you said that perfectly. The intersection between sustainable issues and finances is so important to mention in climate action and in the climate space. Yes. Joseph.
Okay, so for me, why youth involvement is really important. So youth make up 60% of the world population, and also I believe we're revolutionary people, and we represent the possibilities, and so yeah, we have the potential to bring change in our communities. And why should we care? I believe we're all sitting here or watching live. We have heard about sustainable development goals, either at conferences or maybe on the social media, wherever. And most importantly, we live in Earth, and that has given us the ability to experience or to enjoy all of the luxury, such as the good words, good medicines, good doctors, and our environment, which includes the plants, the flowers, like the air we breathe, the fresh air, education, e-learning, and a lot of other social infrastructures. So all of that is possible because there are people, because of God, and there are people who are out there at the forefront fighting the good fight to balance approaches that will preserve the long-term well-being of our environment and communities by investing in social desirable and environmentally healthy projects and services for the benefit of all of us. And that if that is going to continue without these people, our lives would not be improved, and also our ecosystem would not be protected, and neither our natural resources reserved. So knowing all of that, I think that's one reason why we all should care, and we should come on board and hold on to the fort, because we are the best agents of change. Yeah.
I mean, you summarized really well the role of youth in maintaining, you used the word social infrastructure,
You're right.
which is really what the SDGs behind me, what they're all about. And I 100% agree that this role of youth in that is crucial. So, although youth are very important in these spaces, so many youth do not engage in, especially, climate issues because they feel powerless, because they feel burnt out, maybe they feel intimidated by the so-called people more experienced in the field. How do you believe lawmakers and scientists, politicians, people in power can remedy this issue and can make youth feel more included in this process, which is, I guess, sort of what IOSC is doing. But Henry, we haven't started with you.
First is giving them a seat at the table, right? And I can go all for the next 1 hour talking about technology and all that, right? Technology alone cannot realize this lofty ambition, right? It is crucial to mobilize vibrant energy, creativity, and idealism embodied by our youth, right? Youth advocacy plays an indispensable role in creating awareness, inspiration, action, and holding stakeholders accountable for the progress towards the SDG goals, right? Another one is young individuals are not just leaders of tomorrow, right? They are the influencers of today's, and harnessing their potential can accelerate our journey, right? And move us faster towards realizing most of or achieving most of the sustainable goals, right? I usually say this thing like we come every year, talk about resolutions. This is what we want to do. We protest against it. No, we can't do this. Climate change is very important. And then after the whole week of the hashtag UNGA, everybody goes back to their normal life and forget about what is next till the next following year, right? Start taking action is one of the most important thing, right? And every youth has that responsibility on their side, not even waiting for your government to do something. You can actually make the change from your community, from your county, from the people you live with, right? So start taking actions.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of giving them a seat at the table and making sure that action is happening, even beyond the climate conferences, is something a lot of people struggle with. I think that the kind of news cycle perpetuates that a little bit because you hear about all the COPs, all the climate conferences, and then you don't hear about climate issues for months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree that giving them a seat at the table is super important. Julie, how about you?
Thank you for all what you were saying, Henry. And because about taking action, I understand that you and I felt and still feel somewhat intimidated by these huge processes, these institutions, but know that it's reciprocal. So we are also intimidated by the knowledge and the inspiring experience that youth can bring to the table. And so, what can we do to connect? The Commission offers quite a few initiatives that could be interesting for you. First, they provide funding. Funding is the base of the action, I would say. And so there's two grants. I mentioned them earlier. There's the EG4 Climate Grant, which opened just a week ago, and it's on environmental justice, climate resilience. So if you need the funding, please look us up because there's money to fund your projects. We have also another fund, the North American Partnership for Environmental Community Action Grants, which will open in a few months. So also, if you have a project to empower your community on environmental issues, please look us up too because it's going to open soon. We also have a special fund for a youth project. It's a Youth Innovation Challenge. This is a grant that it is for only youth-led initiatives if you're residing in US, Canada, and Mexico. The winners participate in a year-long mentorship program. So it's not only just giving grant, but also, we want to open spaces for you. You want to amplify your voice. What do you need as a skill that we could provide for us? So it's about making connection between these youth and experts or the youth leaders that share these skills. It's about us inviting them to networking activities with government officials. Once a year, we have a council session. That's where actually last time we met with Jessica. And so these youth can present their project, their initiatives to govern at the highest representative in their own country, US, Canada, and Mexico. And I just want to mention quickly the past winners, because what they did was incredible. So in Canada, we had Gabrielle Kirk and Michael Lovarato, who had a great initiative on creating a sustainable form of agriculture. In Mexico, we had Perseida Tenorio Toledo and Maria Diebio Ballesteros Avila. They work on a solution that creates local change agents in indigenous and marginalized communities to provide solutions to different water-related issues. We also had in Mexico Paloma Arena Serrano Ramos, Annie Aixa Rosas Hernandez. They find a way to fight plastic pollutions in water bodies in all North America. And the last one, but not the least, Haley Hall from the US, and she developed a community-based public health awareness campaign focused on well testing and identifying nitrate pollution. So I just wanted to mention them because they did a wonderful work. And so it's about empowering these youth and their project, wonderful projects, and for them to continue their good work, to also have a place at the table, talk to policymakers, and actually you can meet them at the regional conference of youth, which will be in a few months. So if you want to know more about their project. So yeah, it's about funding, it's about giving youth a place at the table, networking activities. We also, of course, have internships at the commission if you're interested in getting to know what the mechanism, how everything works. But also we work on the youth engagement strategy. We want to amplify even more the youth leader that we work with. We're actually going to do a youth engagement week in a few months in November to use leaders to connect with us, for them to share their initiative with us. And also we would want them to share recommendations to us on how institutions like the Commission, trilateral institutions that can seem intimidating, can give them more space. Like, how can we support youth leader more? So if you want, it's a call for application that will go out in a few weeks. So if you want to contribute, and we would love to hear about your recommendation and how we can involve you and youth leaders more. So feel free to connect with me, with us. We would love to hear.
Yes. It's so important how you mentioned grants and finances for, the wonderful work that your organization is doing. But it's often not something that's spoken a lot about in terms of the financial side of climate activism. And that is super, super important, and it's a barrier for a lot of youth. So the fact that you touched on that, very important. Joseph,
Yeah, so for me, I think policymakers should support youth so they can be enlisted to be committed to foster greater contribution. And also, youth should be given the opportunity to follow through. It's not just about survey or being consulted. And also, lastly, they should be empowered as agents of change, because we're revolutionary. So yeah.
Yeah. That last statement, like, youth are revolutionary, I think encapsulates this session really well, and goes to show the importance of youth in these climate spaces. So that's a really strong answer. If the audience could sort of, after this, we'll do questions, but for you guys, if the audience could take away one sentence, one idea from this panel, what would that be? What do you think is the most important, most impactful kind of summary of what we spoke about today? Henry, I guess you could start.
All right. for me, I would say young minds actually harbor like new innovative drive, right? And the most important thing is just channel that innovation towards building a sustainable, towards one of the sustainability, right? And which can actually impact a greener business, basically. So, like for instance, I'm just going to throw this like establish an incubator focused on green startups. You can also, create a platform that provides like what you just said, provide grants or tax incentives for sustainable businesses practices, or facilitate mentorship program concerning young entrepreneurship, right, towards the SDG goals. So basically, just discover those innovation in you, like look at the things that you feel like this is a problem and I really need to solve this goal. I need to make sure that I'm able to achieve this goal. Just it's in there, just find time to just discover it.
The emphasis on entrepreneurship is so important. Um, Joseph, would you like to go?
Yeah, so we're here today, or those of you who are watching live, you're doing that because of what we believe in, and that is a better world. So it's all about, and we also hope to learn from one another. So it's not all about, for me, it's not all about believing and hoping to learn from one another. It's about acting on it. We need people like doing the real work. It's not just come and warm the seats and go back and as if nothing happened. So for me, I think one thing I want everyone to take is that hope requires action.
Um, that emphasis on like refusing to be passive and to be active is evident in a lot of the things you do, and a lot of your work at the Adjustment City, but that is a very strong takeaway from this session. Julie, what's your one sentence, one idea for people to take away?
A takeaway, I would say, based on all what we say, just persevere, because as a youth, like could be tough sometimes, and feeling intimidated, feeling kind of lost in this whole mechanisms, and also feel free to connect with institution, like local institution, regional institution, international institution. Just I think we want. And I say we as a commission, like we want to connect with you as much as you want to connect with us. So feel free to connect, look us up, send the initiatives. We would love to provide funding and to share the space with you. So feel free to persevere and connect.
So before we move into questions from the audience, do you guys have anything else you would like to add before we just something you'd like to speak on, something you think sort of wasn't mentioned in this panel about youth and climate?
I would say facilitate community cleanups, right? Partner with your local governments, and to integrate like youth-led initiatives, right? Sometimes we can be all up in our heads thinking, I don't know if these people are actually going to hear my ideas, or I don't know if these people are going to listen to me. They never listen to people, but all I just have to take is just you taking that one step and just knock at the door. You don't know, and you'd be surprised if you just meet one of your representatives and like, oh yeah, we've actually been wanting to, we're looking for someone that can actually do this project, or we're looking for someone that we can actually partner with it, right? Just try to partner with your local government, or you can even create a youth advisory board amidst you and your colleagues, right? And you guys draw out a plan and you follow through the plan. I hope everyone is safe. Follow through the plan and just and partner with the government. And from there, you get a seat at the table, and that way your voice is going to be heard.
Unless you guys have something else to add.
Mm.
Now I guess we'll move into the question and answer section of this panel. Thank you guys so much for all of your very insightful responses. I personally learned a lot from you guys and a lot from this panel. It's a very diverse set of perspectives, so it was really nice listening to you guys, all very well informed. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for either a specific speaker or, just have all three of them answer about the intersection between youth and climate issues?
So in my school, at least, we've seen there's a lot of people who feel really scared about where the climate is going, and I feel hopeless about the situation of the world, seeing natural disaster, or seeing the rising wildfires or rising global temperatures, and they kind of are afraid to do anything or are afraid to even try because they feel they're going to be disappointed. So how do we inspire those people to actually start trying and make an effort and improve our world?
That sense of disillusionment and doom, especially in the younger generation, is so prevalent. I know I've experienced that myself. Plenty of other people in the climate movement feel that way as well. So I personally would also love to hear everyone's answers on this. Is there a specific panelist you would like to ask that to, or all three? Everyone? Okay. Would you like to start?
So I know how that feels like, because I've also experienced it. There are times you have that lingering feeling that, things are not going to work and stuff like that, and that brings me to something I actually should have said. So how do you inspire those people? For me, I would say, okay, there is a difference between being an influencer and being an advocate for something, right? And yeah, we need influencers, but then we also need advocates. Advocates are people, I believe, they don't only talk for a particular something. They also support the whatever they're advocating for. So if you put yourself out there, for example, few weeks ago, I was back in my country. There has been high cost of living and food, so people have been complaining and all. There's been a lot of discourse around that area. So I didn't really tell people that, hey, okay, what about if we come together and decide to plant a food? I didn't really say that. I tried to be pragmatic about it. I did the first thing. I made the first step by planting myself, and I made that video and I showed people that this is the outcome. If you plant your food, then, you have something to eat. Your family will have something to eat. You can be nice to your neighbor. And with that food that you planted, you can also use it and sell it to the market, and you can get money. That's in that way, you hitting two bats with one stone, which is no poverty and zero hunger. So I feel if you want to inspire people about climate, you have to just first of all believe in yourself and then make the first move. And I believe they'll definitely come around.
That kind of cautious sense of optimism along with action is something so important, especially for the individuals who are experiencing senses of pessimism, why am I even trying, that you mentioned that you see in your own school. So that's a really strong answer. Henry, how about you?
So for me, I'm still going to go back to what I said earlier, which is take action, right? And Joseph literally just said it as well, which is if you're trying to advocate for something, you have to be the first person to do it first, and people are going to join once they see that. You don't want to say, yeah, we have to fix this. Sorry, I'm going to just use the IT term. We have to fix this bug. We have to make sure it's working fine, everything's going right, and you just keep saying it. You just keep talking about it, right? Fine, we know there's a problem, right? But nobody's doing it. But when you sit on your laptop and you start trying to fix it, and you're like, oh yeah, I just fixed the first line of code. You see everybody just go, oh yeah, so how did you do it? Oh, I think then everybody bring ideas together, right? Then you can be able to create something. You can't just talk about it, right? And that's why I said we don't want to have the UNGA's be a 12-month subscription in our lives, right? 12-month subscription in the sense that after this year goes, the next time everybody start talking about youth climate or youth change again, it's the following year when there's another UNGA event, right? You have to take action, right? Regardless of how discouraging it might be, right? You just have to just do it, start it, right? And you don't have to break the banks to do it. Just do it. Look for like-minded people that share the same goals, share the same ideas as you, and just do it. From two people working on a project, you discover there's something they call sprint, right? From you draw out the project, you have, okay, this is a timeline. You just, because most of the time, also one of the mistakes I usually see youth or young adult do is you say, oh yeah, you bring out a project. This is the project. You identify the project, and at the end of the day, you find out that you guys just leave the project on the table, right? You have to bring the project in a from a demand stage to a supply stage, right? You identify the problems, then you list out the goals on how to work on the problems. Give yourself a reasonable timeline. For the first 3 months, we're going to do this. The following 3 months, and also do backlog. Like, okay, let's for the past 3 months do assessment. For the past 3 months, what have we achieved for the past 3 months, right? That way, you know if you're progressing, you know if there are some things you need to work on, and that way you can get things done quicker. Like you just don't want to talk about it and just leave it there. So the most important thing, and the everything is still under one umbrella, which is just take action. Just start doing it.
I mean, both of you emphasize action over kind of being passive, talking about starting initiatives, and that emphasis on action is something that we definitely need more of in the climate movement and the environmental movement as a whole. Julie?
Yes. It's a really good question. And for me, I would say, like adding to my fellow speakers here, but I would say don't get lost in the global. Just get inspired by local action. Like identify within your community what you can do. Just start, step by step. Just identify what's important for your community, what environmental issue your community faces, and just work on that. You don't have to change your own world by yourself. You can just start with your community, even your family, or with your friends. Just and for that you can get inspired. Like we had a session at lunch, I think, with there's great videos made by youth all around the world, like working on different environmental issues. There's a lot of great examples on how you can have an impact locally. So I would say, if the global is too much, and I would completely understand that, and it's also sometimes how I feel, just focus on what you can do for your community, for your family around you, and that could help having a more optimistic view, because you'll see the results and you'll see the happiness and the impact you have around you.
Does that answer your question? Okay, yeah, of course. The emphasis on community and action you guys mentioned that's a really great remedy to the problem that he mentioned. We have time for probably one more question. Does anyone have any questions for the speakers or for a particular speaker? Okay. Jessica, do you have anything you would like to add?
Yes, so as we are coming to a conclusion of this session, I am looking at the online chat, and there is so much appreciation for all of the speakers and also the moderator for having this session, because it's a really great and fabulous session, and people are staying up late. Late as in early morning for them. It's early, 4 a.m.
I was
Early morning.
following the comments on YouTube Live.
Yes.
Everybody is so grateful for everybody. And everybody's like, it's 4 a.m. here, but I get to see the last one.
Yes, and that's why we're all here to support all of you, and thank you so much for all your support.
Thank you so much.
And I know that we have to make some changes to the sessions. So for example, because of speaker availability, because of timing, and we have to push back or push forward the sessions. And I would say that this is a way of how we are able to maintain sustainability. Sustainability in the sense that we're able to sustain the flow of the conference by adjusting to the needs of the conference. And here we're talking about sustainable solutions. So we're always looking for solutions to see how we're able to run conferences that promote the Sustainable Development Goals, that will turn discussions into innovation, into action, and we are empowering the youth for a greener world. As for my statement, because I know that we're coming to a close, if we're talking about sustainable solutions empowering youth for a greener world, then we're actually looking into the reality of where we're at now, and also we're looking into the future while reflecting upon the past. And I encourage all the communities to work together, and that includes the communities that are faith-based, the communities that are usually not that often talked about, but they are also part of our community, and that is the communities of people who have supernatural, paranormal, or supernormal abilities and perceptions. And I want to thank you so much for all your support, and I hope that you will use your ability to promote the Sustainable Development Goals and to help us to maintain that sustainability and to work for a sustainable, livable, and safer world. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Right, before we officially come to close, I meant to mention this at the beginning, but there was supposed to be a fourth panelist named Atreya. He's a very accomplished bee researcher, has spoken at the World Food Forum, the United Nations, and he couldn't make it today, but I just want to say that we really appreciate all of the effort he put into trying to make it today. And Atreya, if you're listening, thank you so much, and we would have loved to have you on the panel, but we hope you're doing well. Yes.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much for coming.